So one example is in America, where people are certainly heading towards the three-planet route. How could you capture the attention of a mass audience? And this year we ran the Super Bowl, which is the biggest TV event in North America, entirely on renewable energy, and focused a lot on kind of bringing clean energy to the front as part of the story of what made this Super Bowl different. I think you also get a sense that many times people talk about no one doing something, and no one doing something is it's not a motivator for change. So we decided in the nation's most popular newspaper, The Sun, to do something very bold. And earlier this year, we gave away 4.5 million compact fluorescent light bulbs in one day. This will save Sun readers about 100 million pounds off their energy bill, and it will save, give or take, 300,000 tons of CO2 in 1 year just by plugging those in, or about half the footprint of News Corporation globally. Now, the great thing about this story was that The Sun, which usually sells a little over 3 million copies a day, read by about 8 million people, sold 400,000 additional copies on the day that we did this, and that uplift was sustained. So it shows that by taking sustainability, cost savings, and economic advantage, and wrapping that all into one, you can sometimes find a sweet spot that achieves both goals. Now, we've talked a little bit about the increased consumerism and how the world is developing. We thought as millions of Indians are thinking about what their future looks like and what their consumption looks like, that thinking of some surprising heroes in India for a kind of green future. So our channel V in India, along with DJ Pia here, ran an entire program, a series throughout the year, which was really about trying to find a glamour, an allure, a sexiness about a greener lifestyle in India, as opposed to necessarily just following a sort of Western path. But I think that the kind of message from these three examples is, try to make it positive and try to make it very authentic. There's sort of our chore list in life, all those things you have to do, which isn't that exciting. Someone said to me the other day, when Martin Luther King stood on the mall in Washington, D.C., he didn't stand up and give a speech. I have a nightmare, right? He said, listen, I have a dream. And I think this is such an important message for us as communicators, is to come at this afresh and to make it thrilling and make it not a chore. The equivalent of the BAFTAs in the U.S. is called the Emmy Awards. We decided this year to have a green carpet made of recyclable bottles, all powered by a solar canopy to showcase how everything was sustainable, from LED lighting to less air conditioning to really remaking the broadcast operations approach. I think one of the things that comes up quite a bit is how do you get colleagues excited? How do you get your neighbors and your colleagues really up to it? And we it occurred to us, not the first people in the world, that there are a lot of plastic bottles used, and we wanted to dramatically change the number of plastic bottles, and we figured out we could build a water filtration thing and do it in those big coolers. And so instead of simply having Big Brother write a note saying no more plastic bottles, on one of our campuses, we just simply took this big glass box and filled it with 2 weeks of plastic bottles. And then we said that it would take 200 barrels of oil to roast that on an annual basis. The result was within 1 month we were using 30,000 less bottles a month, and it completely shifted the system. But people were excited about the approach. This was a different way than simply a chore coming down from the top. The Our Planet community in MySpace is coming up on several 100,000 now. And these are just people who are finding their own self-expression through sharing books, making friends, writing stories, emailing each other, hoping to date each other, whatever it is, all around the issue of the environment. We recently asked them for Earth Week, would you put together some suggestions for how to have a kind of cleaner and healthier lifestyle? And there were so many that came in that Harper-Collins, the book publisher, actually published the first book written by a social network, which was done on this sort of subject. So there's enormous power enormous when you can share things and you give people that platform. Most people have an idea, and they'd love to have a voice to really share it. One of the things that we did was to come up with a partnership. We approached Walmart along with the Carbon Disclosure Project and said, could we look at the carbon life cycle of a DVD in its physical form? So if you're not downloading it yet, which I think will happen more and more, what could you do? And through fundamentally making changes in packaging, distribution, recycling, we're able to save tens of thousands of tons of CO2 with relatively easy things to do. What was interesting was Walmart, which is now the largest seller of DVDs in the world, asked every other studio to now implement these changes. Now the result for us was something good for the environment. We did save a little bit of money for reduced packaging. But the best thing was that the world's largest seller of DVDs now thinks that 20th Century Fox is one of their best business partners. And that's, as MasterCard says, priceless. Very good. Now, one of the other things that we've tried to do is to be authentic on screen and in the papers around how the story takes shape. So what we did was a creative roadshow, and we took some of the best experts we could find around the world, and we went everywhere from the creators of The Simpsons, Matt Groening, and those folks, to Family Guy, which is this show, to 24, to newspapers around the world. And we simply said, let's try to let you know some of the latest thinking in some of these areas. So this is from Family Guy, where I think it was the first sort of cartoon very much aimed at sort of young, cynical people, where the main character drives an energy-efficient car. And I think finding out ways to weave these things in. Another program called Weeds. It's about a middle-class mother who's trying to make ends meet by selling pot in Northern California. And there's a gang that she deals with, all of whom become converts to Priuses because they can sneak up quietly and not be detected by the police. Which I thought was a wonderful way of weaving it into the plot.